The sudden deaths of some black citizens has Mulder concerned. Whatever is killing them is turning their skin pigmentation ash white.
The agents track down an unlikely source rooted in African folklore.
This is not him.
Subject is a black male, 19 years old. Cause and time of death unknown. Note, total lack of pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. The appearance of which suggests albinism, though the bleaching of the irises indicates a violent and unexplained cellular reaction to a vector or an environment.
Hey, I heard you were down here slicing and dicing. Who's the lucky stiff?
His name is Owen Sanders. He was reported as the fourth kidnap victim in Philadelphia until his body turned up last night looking like this.
There's a Michael Jackson joke in here somewhere, but I can't quite find it.
I have been requested to determine what leached the pigment from his body.
Requested by whom?
The Centers for Disease Control.
The CDC in a kidnap case?
Well, they believe that the case has been mislabeled, that this man and the others may have fallen prey to a disease or a pathogen.
What sort of disease is this?
I don't know. There are conditions like vitiligo, which attack melanocytes and prevent the manufacture of melanin in the skin, autoimmune disorders, which are not yet clearly understood.
So this man died of a disorder. He and four other young black men who conveniently contracted the disease in succession and then disappeared without any explanation whatsoever.
Well, it's very possible that they have already turned up, but because of the depigmentation, there may have been a problem with identification. So I have reissued descriptions of John Doe's to area morgues in New York.
Scully, has it occurred to you that this might just be a little PR exercise?
I'm sorry?
To divert attention from the fact that young black men are dying and nobody seems to be able to bring in a suspect, the perception being that nobody cares.
Mulder, not everything is a labyrinth of dark conspiracy, and not everybody is plotting to deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate.
And welcome back to the show. This is...
Is it too early for you?
It's too early. Okay. You are listening to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. I am your host, Mike. I'm going to keep all that in there. And with me is my good friend, Andrew. How are you doing this morning?
So and to our listeners, we are recording early because I have been unavailable for a while. We're both sipping big cups of coffee, and this has been great so far. And we've got a killer episode to listen to today, which is going to make this all better.
You know, it's only appropriate because this episode stumbles quite a bit. So
nice. It's all part of it.
It's all part of the show. Just theatrics for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We are covering, of course, the season 4 favorite, Teliko.
What a banger.
What a banger.
So on October 18th, 1996, 11 million people watched this shining turd. I'm sorry. Am I spoiling my surprise here?
No. I think everyone's on board with this so far.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of notes, so clearly that means that I have some issues with this one.
Yeah.
Starting with the fact it's directed by James Charleston, who directed my least favorite episode of season 3, Avatar.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Get ready.
Some stinkers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I'm ready, Mike. You are cleared for takeoff here.
Yeah. Given that lovely introduction, I think I'm all ready to go. But before I do that, I do want to draw attention. Anyone who listened to our best of, worst of this past season is aware that we are being hindered by some unknown force.
What is that anyway?
I don't know. Someone contacted me a few months ago. Actually, it was towards the beginning of season 3, and they threatened us, and somehow they are affecting the show while we do it. So
I wish you had told me this earlier, because I'm sure we could have done something about it.
I thought I could, kind of head it off, but something's happening, and we're getting to the bottom of it. We are going to do our best, and hopefully this evildoer will leave us alone.
Okay.
But to continue with the episode. All right. Are you ready?
Refresh my my beverage here just so that I'm ready to go.
Okay. Are you refreshing a beverage or taking a piss?
Well, no, that's not. We're not that kind of show.
We're not Opie and Anthony.
Yes, I'm just adding some sound effects to the some practical to make the show more interesting.
Well, we all know it needs it.
It certainly does. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Passenger jet flies against the night sky. Inside, the passengers go about their business. It's a flight from West Africa. The camera pans across the people and lands on a gentleman going over legal documents. He is tired and uses his fingers to rub his eyes under his glasses. It's at this point he gets up and heads down the aisle to the bathroom. From a crack nearby, we see a pale, inhuman eye staring at him intently. The man goes into the bathroom and begins to splash water on his face. He looks up just in time to be startled by something and screams as it attacks. The lock on the door switches from Libra to Occupe, which means occupied, Andrew. I don't know if you knew that.
Pissing. That's what it means.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go on.
Outside the bathroom, a flight attendant asks about the passenger to his seatmate, but he hasn't seen him. Inside the bathroom, we see a hand reach up to the sink. Pulling himself up, it's another man with the same eyes as the creature that hunted the man. He composes himself and leaves the bathroom. As he does so, he bumps into the flight attendant, who asks him to have a seat as they're preparing to land. She knocks on the door but receives no answer. Knocks again, nothing. She opens the door slowly to peer in, and when she gets a look, she sees the passenger dead, slumped in the corner, lifeless eyes looking up at her, and skin an unnatural ashy white. Scream!
Oh, well, we're off to a flying start, aren't we?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I had some questions here because that's me.
Absolutely not.
Apparently in 1996, if you had said plane en route from Burkina Faso, would have just scratched a few heads. So West Africa, while accurate, is still a pretty large world in 96.
Yep.
My main thing is that because this is a non-white episode, we are going to break out the drums and folk songs of our people. Mark Snow,
full force,
got a mandate.
He gets one a season at least, right?
At least one a season. We had Tezos dos Bichos in 3.
Yep.
And here we have it in full force. And it's not just but the drums. We'll get full, hey, oh, that kind of singy business. It'll
well, I am to understand they hired actual singers and drummers.
Okay.
Yeah, they hired them for this episode. It was not a keyboard.
Well, I suppose that would be hard to pull off, but all that to say that this is really a case of leaning fully into the story you think you're trying to tell.
Yeah, it's quite the dichotomy between being on a plane and listening to jungle music.
Yeah.
It is not lost on me. It's you'd think you were in the jungle. You'd think you were deep in West Africa, but
yeah, and it's the most comfortable
few hundred years
I've
ago.
Ever seen.
Yeah,
and really, I gotta ask: you've taken a flight? I'm assuming you've been on a plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and the cozy bathrooms there.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I do when I go into a bathroom is I flick that switch from Libra to Occupe.
Right. Yeah, you don't just walk in there and
start, washing your face. I mean, God forbid somebody else wants to use the bathroom and opens up on you. That is an invitation, what that guy is doing right there.
Let me tell you, I don't believe this scene on that level, yes. He doesn't.
This is the chief problem of the episode.
No. It's not the chief, but it's one of the main problems with me, who I was just on a plane to the Dominican Republic early in May with my wife. And when we were coming back, I unfortunately had the pleasure of sitting in the aisle, the aisle seat, and you could not go 10 minutes without someone getting up to use the bathroom.
Yep.
And people were squeezing past me the entire goddamn flight. And the fact that this guy was missing, or it makes it feel like it's been a while because there's sun now when she goes to look for him.
Yeah. Well, the guy said he left early, and I haven't seen him the whole flight.
Do not believe it. Do not believe that no one had to use the bathroom in that entire time.
Well, Mike, there are 2 bathrooms.
No, I don't believe it.
No, they make a point of it when he wanders down. He sees one is occupied.
I understand, but still,
a carefully woven trap by Samuel Alboa to get a dude in there.
He chose the lesser of the bathrooms to be used, and man, he gave him some time. But
yeah,
I don't believe it. Do not believe it.
I have my doubts about, first of all, how Samuel gets on the plane, because they do not paint him as a sophisticated character.
Mm-hmm.
They paint him as kind of a country bumpkin who is making his way. So why is he leaving Burkina Faso in the first place?
They don't give us a motive.
Oh,
they try to at the end. Yeah, free cable.
Free cable is Mulder's witty response to that, but I just don't buy it, because it seems that he's preying on black people, and they certainly exist in America, but there's an awful lot of white people in America too, which seems to be not his meal preference. So this whole business, I mean, this is obviously Howard Gordon deciding it's a neat idea and let's see what happens, but I just sort of question the internal logic of it.
The only answer to that would be, or not answer, but sometimes the agents go other places. So if you really want to tell the story,
it comes to
send them to West Africa.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the last thing that makes this episode completely unbelievable is this: Burkina Faso is obviously a French-speaking country, and the pilot is speaking English when the plane is coming in for a landing.
I don't even think I paid attention.
Terrible episode.
All right. Let us move on. Let's get through this. It's been 14 minutes, Andrew.
Yes, it has. And really, Howard Gordon, wow. Sorry, I guess I got to get this off my chest. Like, is this the guy who's going to tell the Black Experience in 1996? Because he's also written Fresh Bones.
Yeah.
And his idea here is that black people are killed by being turned white. Howard Gordon had this idea.
Yeah, we'll get into it. It's an interesting choice. Yeah. Okay, well, let's continue, Andrew.
Let's go on.
At the FBI headquarters, it's early morning, supposedly. The sun's shining. Scully heads into Skinner's office. She's been summoned this morning to discuss a disturbing issue. Inside is Dr. Simon Bruin with the Centers for Disease Control. Skinner asks about her knowledge of the recent kidnappings in Philadelphia. 4 young African-American men have gone missing in recent months. Skinner informs her a joint FBI Police Department task force has been working around the clock to figure this out, but no leads until last night. Owen Sanders, one of the men, was found dead at a construction site. When Scully inquires as to how he was killed, Skinner tells her, by all outward appearances, he wasn't killed. But he is going to let Bruin talk about the manner of death. He passes the table to the doctor, who steels himself. Come on, Dr. Bruin, you have this. This is your big moment. He hands Scully a photograph of a dead male. Face, an ashy white, blonde hair. The photo was less than an hour after he was found. Scully's a little confused. She thought the man was black. Well, he was. He hands her a newspaper clipping about him being missing, and next to it is a photograph of a black man, Owen Sanders. The depigmentation could be an indication of disease. Perhaps they're not victims of a crime after all, and it's the doctor's opinion that the investigation will begin and end under a microscope. Oh, so how do you feel about that? How does that assertion by the good doctor grab you here, Andrew?
Well, the thing that I guess I like about it, and I hesitate to use that word, but they're not just called in on a murder. They're trying to change up the plot device, which brings the duo into the show by making it's a health hazard. And we need the FBI's unique take on this because there's also this, the loose connection is that there's a missing persons task force. And I think it's a very optimistic view that in the 90s in Black Philadelphia, there's a joint FBI police task force working around the clock to find 4 missing black men. I love the idea that that's true, but I suspect that at that time especially would be possible at all. I love to think that there was an outcry and it forced people into action, and this is the action that came along. But it's amazing that they go to this health angle as opposed to the obvious, no, there are human perpetrators at work here. Although I suppose the sudden, white skin is so strange as to beg an explanation. So I guess I'm okay with it. I mean,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll have more to say later, I suppose. But
I think it's interesting that the method of subduing his victims is like a blow dart of sorts, but yet there's no outward appearance of.
Yeah,
I think they would have noticed that because that is a big scene or a big seed, and it draws blood immediately. So I don't know. I think they're missing stuff, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So at the pathology lab, Scully's doing her autopsy examination, taking notes when Mulder enters. She apprises him of the situation and that she's been tasked with figuring out why this depigmentation has been, she's been tasked with figuring out why the pigmentation has been leached from his skin. Mulder's skeptical of the nature of the CDC being involved. To him, this smells of an exercise, Andrew. 4 young black men have died and there are no suspects, the implication being that nobody cares. Scully isn't so sure and is quick to remind Mulder not everything is a labyrinth of dark conspiracy. And by the end of the scene, they reach some sort of impasse and Mulder puts himself on the case to help before the body count rises.
Perhaps the only realistic thing so far is Mulder's assertion that this is some exercise to try and have the appearance of doing law enforcement where they really are not. This
is probably the weirdest part for me for this episode. Because Mulder is injecting societal issues into this case, right?
Yes. He's not the spokesperson.
It's great. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
He's alerted to it and is concerned about it. That's great. My concern with the episode is that it's not what's going on.
Yeah.
So why bring it up? They spend so much time of him so sure that this is just, there are 4 black people missing and no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to approach the episode that way and make it about something, if you really wanted to, by bringing this up, just do the episode. Do the paranormal aspect of it. Don't do, because you're drawing attention to something that it's not really about. And it's kind of like injecting for like a moment. Scully had an issue with something. I can't remember what episode that was, but it seemed a little out of place and a little out of left field.
Oh, and was that women have it so hard in law enforcement?
Something like that.
And then she immediately backs off and does nothing.
And does nothing.
It gets killed.
It was soft light.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, if you want to go there, go there. Make the episode about that on some level, but it's not about that. But you're drawing attention to it. I don't know. It struck me as a little
I hear what
odd.
you're saying. This episode doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. That's the main problem, because I know that reading the backstory on this episode, they had real problems in pre-production. So much so that the opening credits, you see Frank Spotnitz, Morgan and Wong, and Paul Rabin all listed as consulting producers. So, and even up until shooting, they're like, why are we telling this story? Clearly they knew they were not the right storytellers for this story, and yet here they are.
Right.
I don't know whether it was an attempt at diversity, an attempt at everyone sees this as a white person show. We need to make an episode which might appeal to a black audience, but I don't think this is it.
Yeah. Come up with something a little different, but
yeah, it certainly doesn't speak to that community in a way which is, I don't know, sympathetic. It just sort of feels like every other stock Black Philadelphia in the 90s is a dangerous, degraded place that, life is cheap, apparently. But
yeah. Long story short, I'm happy Mulder's concerned, but it feels out of place.
It certainly does, yes.
Okay. In an apartment, the man who emerged from the airplane bathroom sits on his bed. A knock at the door. The man at the door identifies him as Samuel Aboa. It is worth noting, Andrew, that Aboa's black skin is now showing splotches of white. Aboa answers the door, now wearing a shirt. Marcus Duff introduces himself. He's his immigration counselor, and he's here for his papers. Aboa lets him in. As they begin, Duff asks for more light, and in a predatory moment, Aboa circles the man while watching him in the dark and arrives at a floor lamp. He turns it on, and it offers very little light, but just good enough. Duff explains that although this is difficult, once you become a U.S. citizen, you can bring over every brother, sister, aunt, uncle, and cousin. It all starts today.
Wow.
In a slow pull into Aboa's face, he thanks the man ominously.
So in about 25 years, Samuel Aboa is going to be a U.S. citizen. And he'll have limitless
such a
opportunities.
Speedy process. It is a speedy process, especially someone who does not speak very, very good English.
I'm so confused about the villain in this episode. Like,
the motive is, we've already talked about it, but the motive is just not there. We don't understand.
The motive appears to be he's hungry. That's
okay. That's great, but stay where the meat that you desire is.
Well, and I don't get that he has the social skills, or in some cases the technical skills, to exist in this society.
Exactly.
Like he's able to get on a plane. He's able to rent an apartment. He's able to apply for U.S. citizenship. Like, all of that's done off stage, because when we see him, he's just like, yes, thank you. That's the extent of his dialogue. And he seems to be such a helpless person, although clearly he's highly advanced in some ways. But, they paint him as the fish out of water using, the blow darts and the way he survives. But it just, to integrate into the society requires you to have skills that I do not believe this character has, so it comes off as strange and unbelievable.
Yeah. Back at the FBI, Mulder enters Pendrell's office and informs him Scully will not be joining them. She's got a date. And this visibly crushes Pendrell until Mulder ends the joke. It's a date with a dead man. Okay.
He's still got a chance.
Yeah. He gets back to the case and informs Mulder that he's found asbestos fibers along with vegetable debris. All local soils, pollen, etc., until he came across something peculiar. He holds up a vial. It's a seed, but not local. Adenia volkensi, a rare species of passion flower, a night-blooming plant indigenous to West Africa. Correctly, Mulder ponders how it could have traveled 500 miles to end up on Owen Sanders.
Well,
everything's a weird revelation, Andrew.
It's the Virgil and Canto moment where it's Italian Renaissance poetry, which is going to do in the villain. In this case, it's a completely impossible, rare seed, which can only exist in one place.
Yep. Only West Africa.
Yep.
We cut to Mulder on the phone with Scully.
It contains a cerebropathic glycoside. Does that mean anything to you?
If I'm correct, it's a cortical depressant that works on the higher centers of the brain.
Is it lethal?
In large enough quantities, it might be. Larger than anything contained in a single seed.
Did the toxicology screen detect any of it in Owen Sanders' blood?
No, the tox screen was clean.
Could his body metabolize the substance?
Only if the victim hadn't expired immediately.
Does that tell you anything about anything?
No, but I think I found something that could explain the deep pigmentation in the victim. His pituitary gland was necrotized.
His pituitary gland?
The pituitary gland secretes all of the regulatory hormones in the body, and it controls the production of melanin in the skin cells.
So you found evidence that this is a disease?
No. I have identified the effect. I am still looking for the cause.
Okay, well, why don't you let me know as soon as you find anything out?
Where are you, Mulder?
Off to water the seeds of doubt. Bye-bye.
And he heads down the ramp at a local airport.
So, Mike, we've been through, 70 episodes so far? These characters have seen some shit. They have been through life and death to each other. She asks him where he's going, and he says, I'm off to water the seeds of doubt. You don't think he'd say, and New York. I'm on this flight to...
Well, if we know anything about Mulder, he rarely even says goodbye.
It's true.
So, yeah. I mean, this scene's on brand.
It's on brand. It's stupid, but it's on brand.
It's stupid.
I know that we're not meant to, at this time period, we're not meant to connect the episodes in some global narrative. We're just meant to sort of see them in context of the episode itself. But I just no, you wouldn't do this to your friend. Why are you a dick to your friend?
I say that every episode, Andrew.
I know.
What he does to Scully. Although I will say he actually says bye.
That's true.
Write it down on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because, as we'll come to explain, this episode is a skip. So you will miss it if you don't look for it, ladies and gentlemen. He'll always be a dick.
Now, I have to say, this whole business of depigmentation because the pituitary gland has been necrotized, I get that you could gain sustenance off of the pituitary gland. I'm okay with that as a plot device, as clunky as it is. But the idea that suddenly your skin changes color because that's removed, I do not buy that. I mean, I feel like that is a years-long process of.
I guess he's sucking it out of them. I don't think.
I just don't. No way. No way.
I'm with you. Silly. I think it's. First of all, this is likely impossible.
Yeah, so much for the plausible reality of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's supposed to be, I guess, the paranormal aspect. The fact that this guy's living without a pituitary gland and he's eating other people's, which turns their skin white. I can get on board with that. I get it.
Sure.
But yeah, the speed at which it happens is like, what?
Their problem was trying to explain it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make it magic and be like, I have no idea how this happened. The pituitary gland, it's fine. He's just white now. I don't know.
Or what they could do is give this episode a real twist in the mood setting and have him or show him doing what he's doing to the victims, and you hear like a straw-like sound. And as it gets to the bottom of the glass, you hear the sucking and the skin slowly turns white.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be even hokier somehow, but just...
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Well, Mulder is on his way to the United Nations building in New York, Andrew, and he is much like a boa. He's going to practice his stalking skills.
Oh, very good.
It's nighttime, and Marita Covarrubias is leaving work. And from the shadows, Mulder startles her. She says she knows nothing of the case, and he asks if she is in a position to find information for him. She tries to leave, stating thousands of exotic species crossed into U.S. undetected. There's nothing she can do. He continues to plead with her, and the scene ends with her looking at him because she, supposedly, is the one who can help him.
Well, I do like that. Certainly this is not a mythology episode, but they do try and sprinkle it with mythology dust here by invoking Marita Covarrubias, but it reminds me of other one-shots where they bring in the mythology characters to try and advance the plot. I guess the actor who played Marita had nothing to do. They're like, hey, we bring her in as a way
Good
to keep
old Laurie Holden.
Yeah. Bring her in to connect the plot to a little bit. It didn't need to be her. Could have been somebody else that he called on. But it is a way to advance that plot to say, are you going to be the next Deep Throat? Just checking in.
Yeah. Kind of like, again, X and Soft Light.
Very much.
They peppered him in, and then he became a government conspiracy plot.
Yep.
So, yeah, the scene is interesting because there is sexual tension here, and I don't understand it.
Do you need me to explain sex to you, Mike?
No, it's just weird. Mulder uses some weird terminology here that I don't know what he's referencing. I don't understand why he's so... Like, why he would even go to her in the first place. I understand that...
It's funny, of all the sins of this in this episode, this is the least for me because there is an international component to it.
Absolutely.
She does work for the UN in a special capacity. I do buy that she is actually a reasonable character to invoke at this point. I don't know if it's effective, but I'm okay with it, to be honest.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. We go now to a bus stop, Andrew. Nighttime once again.
Oh, yeah.
A young black male sits at the bus stop. We hear a dart noise of some kind fly by, and the man grabs at the back of his neck. He turns to scan the street nearby, but shadows bathe everything in darkness. He pulls the bloody seed from his neck and begins having trouble with his eyesight. Streams of lights trail as he looks around, dazed. The bus he was waiting for is rolling up. As he stumbles to the bench, unable to stand, the bus pulls up. The driver opens the door and beckons him to get on, but the man cannot respond. He just stares, breathing heavily. Frustrated, the bus driver tries again. With no response, he assumes some drug usage and drives away. As the bus travels off, a boa is revealed across the street. The camera crawls up to his body, a white splotch on his neck, eyes a predatory red as he stares at the victim. Mark Snow's music is the least offensive it's ever been at this moment.
That's the other thing. How come, magic is the obvious answer, but Samuel's eyes switching colors and now they're red. It's like, eyes don't do that unless he's got magic eyes. So he's got magic eyes, Mike. That's my stance now. He's got magic eyes.
I guess it means he's in hunting mode.
Oh, his eyes are red. This feels like a retread of the Tomb storyline. I feel like after 5 pituitary glands, he's gonna hibernate for 60 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
We will come to that.
All right.
It's daytime now. Bus stop again. A cute poster saying, "It is a small world." Scully is interviewing the driver of the bus. He describes that the man was out of it, glassy-eyed. He wants to make sure, though, that she knows he had a schedule to keep, so he couldn't render aid. He could not get off the bus, get off his fat ass and check. Yeah. No, he couldn't be bothered to see someone who's obviously in distress of some kind. So this man's racist. He's canceled.
In 96, everyone just gives a slow nod at home. It's like, okay. Yeah, schedule to keep. I got to respect that.
It's at this moment that Mulder shows up.
We have another missing young man. His name is Alfred Kittle, 17 years old. He's African-American. His mother called the police around 3 o'clock this morning.
How does she know he's missing?
He works at a fast food place down the street. He takes his bus every night, and last night he never made it home. They found his knapsack on the bench here. The police are out canvassing. I talked to a bus driver who said that he seemed disoriented and non-responsive, which seems to me like it might be some kind of pre-symptomatic dementia.
Or a reaction to a powerful cortical depressant.
What are you suggesting?
You find Alfred Kittle and you find another one of those rare African seeds.
What makes you so sure?
3 months ago, 1 week before the first person was reported missing, the New York Port Authority filed that with the FAA. Like Owen Sanders, this man wasn't an albino either, not until he was found dead on a charter flight from West Africa, from Burkina Faso. The embassy demanded that the body be returned before an autopsy could be performed.
It says here that the cause of death was undetermined.
Yeah, undetermined, Scully, but not necessarily unknown.
Did you have anything to say about this?
Well, the only note I wrote down at this point is, why can't Samuel feed off of white people?
Oh, well, he tries later.
I guess that's desperation, but really it's just about our characters have never been in real danger up to that point, so it's the way to inject danger. Yeah. It all comes back to, why is he coming to America? You know, why has he left the fertile hunting grounds of the plains of West Africa? But because if he didn't, there wouldn't be a story, I suppose.
There'd be no story. Almost like the X-Files doesn't need to tell the story.
Drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. At Aboa's apartment, police officers arrive. They make fun of his name as they knock on his door.
What kind of name is Aboa?
Oh, man. And might I add, the officer who asked that is black. Come on. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Be a little sensitive, all right?
I wonder how he felt in that moment.
Right.
You know, this is your script. And he's like, I got to say these words. So.
Wow, I got a speaking line? Oh.
Jerry, you got a role in the X-Files. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you play a racist against your own race black man. Okie dokie. What's the
scale? Oh, boy. When Aboa answers the door, they engage in conversation about the missing young man. Inside the apartment, Kittle, the young man, is in extreme duress. Out of the view of police, they hand Aboa a photo of the man they're looking for and hand him the hotline number he can call. Aboa closes the door and approaches the victim. He opens his mouth and pulls a long object from his throat. I will say, Andrew, despite all the problems I have with this episode, there are a couple scenes, maybe even a few, that have extreme tension.
Oh, this is one.
This is one of those scenes that's like, you can feel the anticipation, the anxiety of being so close to help, right? And being just out of reach, and it sucks. Because
that's exactly my note in this scene. It's particularly scary.
Yeah.
Help is meters away and you can't do a thing. And then this horrible, brutal sequence where you don't even see the violence that's going to be extracted on this guy, but just the way he produces that tube out of his mouth, everything is just so unearthly about it. And this guy can do nothing but watch in paralyzed horror. It's just, its tears are streaming down his face.
Exactly. Ugh. That is actually an awesome touch. I think the fact that he's crying, or whether or not he's crying, maybe it's just a reaction. I don't know. But it's perfect. I think this scene is so tense. Perfect X-Files material. Yeah. It just was in the wrong episode.
It'd be great.
It was wrong episode.
Yeah.
So now we go to the INS office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Mulder is questioning Duff, who really wants nothing to do with the agents. Mulder wants to know about his case handling of aliens emigrating to the United States. He inquires about a flight from Burkina Faso and wants to know of anyone applying for permanent residence or work visa in the last 3 months. Duff pushes back. His job is not chasing down illegals. Scully tries to assuage his fears and says they're not here to arrest anybody. They're investigating a possible health crisis. And the scene ends with Duff asking, what kind? That's another sin of this episode. Every scene ends with some sort of like mini revelation, and it has like the emotional weight of nothing.
Well, that's Howard Gordon.
I know. Everything's like,
yeah. Cliffhanger moment from scene to scene.
You wait for the camera to circle up to their face, and every time the scene ends, it's like
you just need Mulder taking off his sunglasses at every end of scene with a pithy catchphrase.
Caruso.
Exactly, but it's not that show.
It is not that show.
Yeah.
At Samuel Aboa's residence outside, Mulder comes out of the apartment front
I'm sorry,
door.
I need to circle back on one thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Michael Duff, the actor who plays him, God bless him.
Oh, great.
He's given such crap material to work with, and he acts such a trooper in those scenes.
He's great.
It's like the scene where they, back in Samuel Aboa's apartment, I forgot to mention this, where they, the crisis moment is Samuel turning on a light. And he's like, that's better. I guess that works too.
Guess that works.
It's like, oh man, that must have been, so rough to do that scene. And yet, he is. He's pretty good, but I also don't think that he was initially cast as a black man, because Marcus Duff, like that is not that character's name.
It doesn't fit with the fact that he's got an accent. And
I think that was changed in production to make it a bit more believable. But change the guy's name. Come on.
Yep. Well, Mulder's coming out of Aboa's apartment front door. Gets into the car with Scully. He's not home, and the two discuss the pathogen. Scully continues to scan the files. Mulder takes the opportunity to try to pull her to his side. Look up from the microscope and see what's missing. A motive. As he expresses doubt, she insists this is a health crisis. Something caused Sanders' pituitary to fail. It's at this moment Mulder spots Aboa nearby. He gets out of the car and calls to him to question him, and at the sight of Mulder, Aboa flees. The agents follow behind and into a dead-end alley. They're stopped by a chain-link fence. In disbelief of his presumed speed, they search the area in case he's still nearby. He has to be nearby, Andrew.
He has to be.
Has to be.
There's no way he could have climbed that fence.
No. Scully spots a small hole in the fence and presumes he slipped through. Mulder, however, walks over to a small drain opening in the wall and is surprised to find Aboa. The agents are stunned.
I was waiting for the quip from Mulder. Some callback to Tombs, it's like, but there was no quip to be had. He was just shocked.
This is where the episode really starts to fall apart. I wasn't on board with it before this, but the fact that this is, I'll give you the opportunity because I know you hate changing powers, but where the fuck does this come from? Why does he have to do this?
Yeah.
When we already know what he does.
I didn't like the whole squeezing in thing. I didn't think it was necessary.
Where does it come from?
To be fair, it's not a changing power.
It's just a new one.
Not even. He squeezed into the bathroom on the plane. So from the get-go, he's had this ability, but
I guess.
And later on, the Black Ambassador dude is going to tell us how he hides in small spaces. So they try and make it part of his overall power base. So I guess I'm okay with it. I just don't think it really.
I don't know. I thought it was a callback to Squeeze and just unnecessary. And
they didn't even do anything with it. But it's not. It wasn't Howard Gordon's episode to make fun of. That's Gordon. Wong and
Morgan,
who wrote that one. So I'm just surprised they didn't, because it's such an obvious link.
Yeah. Remember Tombs?
Yeah, it feels so familiar.
I feel like
maybe after 6 pituitary glands, he's going to hibernate for 66 years.
And that's all. I was waiting for it. I was waiting. Like he needs enough to for his next cycle.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, right? Like the dynamics of how often this guy has to feed and what it gives him are not really explained. Mm-hmm. So,
at this rate, he's killing one person a day almost. It's like,
yeah.
How long is this case? Number one, I know they said he's been here for 3 months, but it feels like they're chasing down someone who is actively feeding almost daily.
That's the X-Files classic problem is nailing down the timeline for when things happen such that it actually gets confusing.
Yeah.
But in this case, I feel like they don't explain enough to make it make sense. Yeah. Or it needs to be a lot more subtle, because how on earth does this creature exist in Burkina Faso?
Right.
It's if you're knocking down bodies, eventually someone's going to notice.
Right. The transitioning of scenes are maybe hours. I would say less than a day usually in this episode. Yeah. And by that time, when Aboa is hunting, he's already losing pigmentation. Yeah. So if his goal is to blend in and be black completely, if that's his goal, then man, he's got to be killing people, because
he does.
It wears off so fast. It's like, come on.
Well, it's the same as Encanto in Tushai.
Exactly.
He gets to go about a day before he starts flaking off his skin. And so I guess you could argue that, his condition is worsening and he has to feed more often. Yeah, so that is why this is happening. But
again, they don't explain anything. So
never discussed.
Yeah. At the Mount Zion Medical Center, a boa is getting an MRI, and Scully looks on with that fine-ass model stance. I'm sorry, can we just appreciate this for a minute? The way she's leaning and looking at that, perfect. Perfect. I think our listeners can appreciate that.
I will say this is an interesting point to check in, because I look at season 1 Scully versus season 4 Scully. Mm-hmm. That, very chiseled features. As Gillian Anderson ages, her features get even more chiseled, but
she just gets more beautiful.
And she does. But I will wonder if this is a feature of the Hollywood dynamic of women have to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. And, getting into horrible diet situations and, smoking instead of eating. Yeah. Like season 1 Scully looked like a real person. As time goes on, she just looks so chiseled. And I think, is this the model for people? I don't know.
Later on,
it is what it is.
A doctor checks a boa's eyes and calls the case a dead end. Scully requests to examine him further. Mulder waits outside. She informs Mulder nothing yet, but hope is not lost. He could be a carrier or maybe even an index case. Mulder comments on him squeezing into the drain.
Oh, hey.
In comes Duff, who is very upset. He doesn't understand how his health is in danger, yet they are arresting him. Scully wants to run more tests on him and called him to be his translator. Mulder, however, is a little pushier. They want to know about Alfred Kittle and several other young men who've disappeared since a boa's arrival in the States 3 months ago. The conversation morphs into an explanation that describes the plight of the African American at the hands of police as explanation for why he ran. And Mulder is convinced the man is hiding something and leaves in a huff.
What episode do you want to be?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about political prisoners in West Africa. It's just, I get it.
Yeah, they're all valid points, but where do they fit? Yeah.
Well, and now we're also a virus on the loose episode. Mm-hmm. Like that to me was also pretty poorly executed, because if it's a virus, where are your protocols? I mean, this is the pandemic that taught us all this, right? But like, those are painter's masks they're wearing. Where's your gloves?
No, this is how you do it.
Yeah. Well,
it's not a problem until you realize it's a problem. Then you have to wear the real material.
Gotcha. I mean, if ICE taught us anything, it's that you don't need any kind of safety, any kind of real safety protocols.
All you have to be careful of is not making out with the subject, and you should be okay.
Well, then that's fair. The logic of the episode is sound.
Yeah. We go now to the Burkina Faso embassy in Washington. Mulder is led into an office and brought to the minister. Someone is forcing him to speak on the matter. Marita.
I guess she's going to be useful for something.
Yeah. Mulder begins talking of the flight 3 months ago from the pre-credits scene. Apparently, the minister hid the events from his own ambassador. The request to stop investigating the death came directly from him, but more men are dying. The minister here is cryptic. Even if I tell you, you wouldn't believe it. He had hoped if he closed his eyes, it would go away this time. He grew up hearing tales of the Teliko, spirits of the air. We switch scenes, but the minister's voiceover continues.
It was said they rested by day in closed, dark places deep inside the tree hollows and in holes beneath the ground, too small even for a child to hide himself.
Mr. Boa.
Only when the sun fell, when the rest of the world was sleeping, would they come out.
Come out to do what, sir?
I was 7 years old. Lying awake one night, I saw him. He was standing over me. His hair was like straw, his eyes like water, staring down at me. I closed my eyes and screamed, and felt myself being swept up into the air. But when I opened my eyes, I saw my father holding me.
Then it was a nightmare.
That's what my father said. And I believed him. Until the next day, when they found my cousin dead among his cattle.
An orderly in Oboa's room looks around and knocks on the bathroom door looking for Oboa. And the orderly wheels out a lunch cart. It's a spooky tale that he's lived with, and he always sensed that there was more to it than what he thought in the moment. As this story comes to a close, we see a small drawer at the bottom of the cart opening slowly, revealing Oboa's eyes peering out. So he used the lunch cart to escape the hospital room.
In a better or possibly worse episode, the ambassador then becomes the next victim.
Right. You told my story.
Yeah. I've waited 30 years for this moment.
At least make them like old rivals from West Africa. At least give Oboa a reason.
That would explain why he actually came to the
Exactly.
States.
Exactly. It gives them a motive.
Yeah. Why are we the ones fixing this episode, Mike?
I don't know. In the hospital x-ray room, Scully notes the patient has something in his throat. It looks like a bone growth of some kind. And she's also discovered something alarming with his PET. Oboa has no pituitary gland. That's impossible.
Doctor, could that be a pan flute?
Yes. Yes, we keep them on staff for anyone of this descent.
You'd be surprised what people stick down their throats.
Yes, he had to get that in there.
Doctor, is that an ancient broadsword?
Is that a 13th century Viking sword?
Have I walked onto the set of Highlander?
Yeah, there can only be one. Mulder comes in with some bad news. Oboa is gone. Disappeared.
Mm.
And we switch now to
Nothing
it.
disappears without a trace, Mike.
Oh, no. At night, as Duff finishes for the night, he walks to his car. Oboa startles him in the parking garage. Duff offers him a ride home. Oboa hiding the object from his throat behind his back. So he's getting more desperate for some reason. He decides to attack the man who's helping him.
Yeah. Okay, so Samuel Oboa is this recent immigrant to the U.S., new to Philadelphia, but he's able to get wherever he needs to go, exactly at the right time so that he can intercept Marcus Duff. Again, is this guy a bumpkin or what? Because he plays like one. I suppose
they don't give us any reason to think he's not, which is the problem. If they gave us like a hint that he's really intelligent and he's playing his part,
yes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay, so this is probably the third time where the X-Files has written an episode where they catch the bad guy halfway through, almost exactly halfway through. And I'm okay with that concept.
Yeah.
My problem is the lead up to it. And I realized I didn't talk about this point earlier, and I'll briefly touch on it. Why does Samuel Oboa run from Mulder and Scully? Like, he could easily just be like, yes, I am happy to be here in America.
Exactly.
The way they're playing it. But it's been a slow episode. They need a chase scene. They need this fantastical...
And they felt the need to inject that story. At the hands of police, you would know what this is like if you grew up.
Oh, right.
But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only usage of it.
It never comes up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at the hospital, Mulder notes the cart drawer as the getaway vehicle. Scully gets off the phone. The Philly PD found Marcus Duff's car abandoned with the keys in it. They move fast, Andrew. I don't understand the time difference here or why they were even looking for his car, or if it was if he parked it in the middle of the street and left the door open to be found. I don't know what happened, but somehow they were looking for it and found it.
I suspect... listen to me apologize for this episode, but I suspect that the car never left the parking lot, that Samuel Oboa dragged him out of the parking lot.
That's fair.
And that literally somebody else is just going to their car and like, hey, Marcus's car door is wide open and I don't see Marcus. Something bad has happened and I've called the police.
That's fair.
That is my only explanation for that, because guess what? Samuel Aboa did not drive that car and then leave it somewhere.
That's fair. Fair. All right. Well, in an alley somewhere, Aboa is attacking Duff in a slow, methodical manner as he lies helpless, awake, yet unable to stop his attacker. Aboa puts the thin object up Duff's nose. A policeman nearby interrupts him. As the officer gets closer, he finds Duff on the ground with the tool protruding from his nose still, but no Aboa. Yet there's a curious drain nearby. He requests an ambulance, despite him being black.
Yeah. In a positive note, Marcus Duff did test negative for COVID, though.
Oh, yay. Well, that's great.
Yeah. Oof. See, Samuel was just doing him a favor.
He was really, this is beyond its time, this episode. They were ready. This is how you're going to test for COVID, and you need to get on board with it. Later on, the agents arrive with help, and Duff is being loaded into an ambulance. The police are still sweeping the area for Aboa. They head back to their car and debate if he's still in the area. Mulder tells Scully this may have been an opportunistic killing for a basic need. He has no pituitary gland and he needs to feed. He tells her his theory. Or his story.
Superpower.
What need?
Well, if Aboa has no pituitary, then his body would lack the ability to produce melanin itself, right?
Theoretically, yes.
But when you examine him, you didn't observe one single albino trait or characteristic.
Considering his PET scan results, I don't even know how he managed to stay alive.
That's what I'm talking about, Scully. Survival. And not just Aboa's. I think that the anomaly you observed is not just physiological. I think it may be evolutionary.
What are you talking about?
A lost tribe. A clan of sub-Saharan albinos linked by their common congenital deficit, who've adapted over generations by...
What, by stealing other people's hormones?
Somehow, Aboa has managed to survive.
Well, however he's managed to survive, what makes you think that he's not an isolated case?
Because of something somebody told me last night. An African folktale.
So you're basing this theory on a folktale?
It's just another way of describing the same truth, right? I mean, all new truths begin as heresies and end as superstitions. We fear the unknown, so we reduce it to the terms that are most familiar to us, whether that's a folktale or a disease or a conspiracy.
So they've now turned Aboa into this opportunistic killer. And again, like we had noted earlier, his need to feed is growing.
Mm-hmm.
Although no real explanation why. The body count would be astronomical by the end of this episode.
Yep.
So they pull up to a construction site. Mulder stops because of Pendrell's finding of asbestos on Owen's body. Of course, the two enter the building and split. Their flashlights...
It boggles the mind.
It's unbelievable, dude.
I mean, just, again, what was their plan? How many demolition sites that dealing with asbestos are there in Philadelphia? I mean, I guess I could throw them a bone and say it was close to where Samuel lives. It was convenient. Fine. But it's the flimsiest.
You know what else it calls to?
Yeah.
Tombs.
Yes.
The sequel.
Yes. The trequel right here.
Jesus.
It's so flimsy as a diversion for the plot for them to go here with no plan, no backup. Just, hey, he might be in here. Let's go and find this multi-person killer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, they split up for no reason. Their flashlights pierce the darkness.
No, they don't. They don't illuminate a thing, sir.
They don't.
Those are the worst flashlights ever.
As Mulder searches, Aboa watches from nearby. Without warning, Mulder is struck with a seed. He grabs at his neck and pulls back bloody fingers. Like the victims before him, he is soon dazed, eyesight blurred. He breathes heavily as he falls to his knees and then to the ground. Scully calls to her partner, but no answer. She spots his flashlight on the railing above her. When she climbs to investigate, she spots a square opening for a vent.
And then Scully was shot with a dart and the series ended.
And the series ends.
Yeah.
No. She crawls inside because she's feeling reminiscent of the Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Suspecting this is where they went. As she crawls, a boa appears behind her with pale red eyes, watching. As she continues, she finds the dead body of one of his victims and finds Mulder, eyes open, unresponsive. Nearby, she hears more crawling, aggressive, and shines her light. In a fairly disturbing scene, a boa enters the frame on all fours, pale as can be, with red eyes and white hair, and stops to stare at her. She aims her gun and fires. He's gone.
And they're both deafened forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what they need to have as the soundtrack for the rest of the scene is just tinnitus.
God damn it. Oh, man.
Yeah.
She takes the moment to tend to Mulder, who is unresponsive but awake, eyes open and drooling, which I have to say is a nice touch, David. Nice
David
touch.
really phoning it in at that point.
Yeah. She crawls over him and kicks open a vent cover to discover a hub of sorts. Dead bodies strewn all over. They're the missing victims. Oh, well, boy.
They've blown this case wide open.
She drags Mulder into the room and calls for help. As she does, Mulder scans the room with his eyes and notices a boa behind her, above. He can't speak. His eyes dart around nervously as he tries to communicate with Scully. She looks at him while she's talking on the phone and notices he's not looking at her. He's looking past her. She draws her gun, spins around, and fires at a boa who has just leapt at her. She nails him, and he falls aside. The good news, Andrew, is she wasn't in any danger because when he falls, he lands well out of the way.
Yeah.
So Mulder expresses instant relief knowing the danger is gone. Apparently, when you get shot in midair, you change trajectory.
The bullets are just so strong.
It pushed him out of the way.
It's Hollywood bullets.
Hollywood bullets.
They can throw you across the room.
Despite the fact he was already in the air when she shot.
Listen, man.
It pushed him out of the way.
This is the least crime.
No.
This
just makes the whole episode collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's going to happen, come on. What else?
Again, firing the gun in the enclosed space, tinnitus. I mean, that's what this scene should be.
Yep. To close out the episode, Scully types up her report. Marcus Duff was discharged and is expected to testify against a boa. They are unsure, however, if a boa will live long enough to stand trial. Like Toombs and Encanto before him, he is quickly dying. He hasn't responded to the hormone therapy and continues to deteriorate. She is steadfast that his existence and survival thus far can be explained by science, but what science may never be able to explain is our ineffable fear of the alien among us, a fear which often drives us not to search for understanding, but to deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate, to obscure the truth not only from others, but from ourselves. Credit.
Mike, why are they delving into this weird triplet of deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate, or whatever the line is? They're using it in this and multiple episodes, and I don't understand the reference.
This is the beginning of it, and I think Howard Gordon just had a thesaurus on hand. And he's like, I learned these new words, and I want to use them 3 times in this episode.
I got a word a day calendar, and I had a zinger.
Word of the day toilet paper. Yeah. Ooh, what's this?
It feels like it's a callback to something more weighty, like Nixon or something, but I don't know. It certainly wouldn't resonate with a modern audience, but yeah, wow, what a humdinger.
Well, it's obviously great, so we don't really need to talk about it. I think we've done a great justice to this episode. It's one that I always forget about, but man, I feel bad about it because it's so perfect.
Well, I wrote up some final thoughts. Do you want me to recount them?
I mean, if you feel like you need to suck this one off anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mike, Teliko is not one of the better X-Files episodes.
What?
Sorry to burst your bubble.
Come on.
Yes, it's 1996, and they are trying to diversify, perhaps, but it would probably have been a good idea to have someone other than Howard Gordon write your episode about black people. I suppose Gordon has had practice narrating the Black experience through his other episode, Fresh Bones, which was equally xenophobic. Apparently, the episode suffered from difficulty during production, unsurprisingly, which required a sit-down of all the show's senior producers, which explains why Morgan, Wong, Spotnitz, and Rabwin are all listed as co-producers. Even after it started shooting, the question, why are we telling this story, was repeated, but the train had already left the station, so they tried to polish it as much as they could. Mulder and Scully are out of place in this episode. Calling it a virus instead of a murderer or other conventional criminal is an interesting take, but their complete lack of antiviral protocols makes that almost an afterthought. I mean, gloves and mask, at the least. Come on. If I have one lingering problem with this episode, it's that I'm not sure what the point of the story is. Should the U.S. be tougher on immigration? Should we pay more attention to the safety of Black communities? Is this a story about racism? The episode never really commits to a narrative, so it comes off as a bland action story that's easily forgotten.
Yeah, it's just a mishmash, convoluted mess of a story that does not know what it is.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into it, but it's just weird. That's the best way I can describe it. It's, some people would call it offensive. I don't. I think it's just weird. They try to make it about something that it's not about. And that's it. And then they inject other things into it. And it just feels like they had all these ideas and points they wanted to get across, but they don't really want to tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to make this bad guy the center of the story.
Yeah.
And give it an X-Files paint job. And really, it just screams of a lesser Tombs. That's all it is to me.
Yeah.
And it's same motivations, same time limits, same abilities.
I'd even go so far as to say a lesser Too Shy. I'd say it has more.
Yeah.
I think it has more in common with Too Shy than Squeeze or Tombs because of the eating the unique body element from the victim and the increasing timeline. At least Tombs had a better schematic for what the nature of the kills were about. You knew why it was happening. With Too Shy and now Teliko, it's just like, no, he's hungry and he's getting hungrier, and eventually he's going to just kill everybody in the process.
Kill everybody. Well, do we have any listener comments, Andrew?
We do.
Right.
We've got one from Aaron Haycroft, who says, Teliko is a very bland episode. Get it? Bland?
Bland.
Not enough originality to make it stand out, and it addresses race from the questionable, but ultimately well-meaning, I feel, perspective of a white guy from the 90s. The timeline of the kills makes little sense. They mention several killings over the course of 3 months. Then there are 2 kills in a couple of days. Pick a lane, Boa. Also, I may have missed something, but how does a boa squeeze into so many tight places? The ending is pretty tense, however. Yeah. All fair points.
Yeah, all fair points. And again, I think the inclusion of Mulder's concern about the case itself and the fact that the murders or disappearances aren't being solved, it's a good angle. But if that's what it's going to be about, make that about it, or make it about that. Just explore it. Explore it in a way that makes sense. Don't just bring it up for fake weight.
To fix it, you make the ambassador the target. You lose the bumpkin aspect, and you make him calculating. You could show him as being, acting dumb, but in fact give him some superior technical expertise, or show him being capable.
Right.
It just doesn't come off that way.
Liza M says Teliko looks great. At least it does when I'm not cringing too hard to see anything.
Amen. Yep, that is the way.
Those are our comments. Thank you very much for contributing.
Yeah, thanks, folks.
And Andrew, we have been here much longer than I intended to be. So let us get on with it and close out this episode and end the suffering.
Shall we fade to black, Mike?
Let's fade.
Nicely done. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We look forward to speaking into your ear holes again soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at TINHXFilesPod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.